Today we're looking at this iMac, and we're going to give it a quick clean from the outside, and then we're going to open it up and take a look at the inside. Now, this is the first iMac I've ever had in my possession. I've used iMacs before. It's been a very long time. This is actually one of the types of iMacs we had when I was in, oh boy, elementary school probably. They were brand new actually at the time. So we got a Mac Lab, I remember, gosh, 4th or 5th grade. But our typing classes were all taught on Apple IIs. So if that gives you any indication, it's been a while since I've used one of these. And this up here is some adhesive. Probably, I'm wondering if this might have been an old school piece that was retired and then ended up going to the salvage yard, getting dug out of a closet somewhere along the line. So I'm just going to gently clean out this tray. You can see it's pretty loaded with gunk. Once we get this apart a little bit more, we'll probably look to see to maybe disassemble this further. But for right now, I just want to give it kind of a good once over to get it looking a little bit better, and then we can always take all these bezels off in the future to get them cleaned up. It's not hooked up to any power or anything, and presumably hasn't been for a good long while. And actually this power button is pretty stuck, so I'm going to guess that it's just loaded in there with goop and gunk from who knows how long that this was actually sitting out in the rain or in the mud at the salvage yard. It's not in awful condition, and I'll spin it around here in a second. But even like the plastic bezel here, other than having some scratches on it, really isn't bad. I mean, the screen here's got a couple scratches in the glass, but to be honest, the resolution on these screens isn't great anyway, so chances are you're not going to notice a small superficial scratch like that when using it. So that's, again, for something you pull literally not out of a dumpster, but close enough. Definitely serviceable, definitely workable for what we're going to do with it. So we'll turn it to the side here so you can get a little better look overall at the condition of the components. Now, you can see there's some minor scratching in the plastic. There's some gunk buildup in it. But overall, this looks really clean on the inside. Excuse me, the yoke and everything actually looks pretty good on the CRT. It doesn't really look like anybody's ever been in this. Indicators on the side here feel fine. All the connections look clean. I mean, there's no corrosion or rust in these. So let's take a look at the back here. Again, a little bit of a rub. Apple logo looks nice. A little bit of dirt to clean out of there, but yeah, down the side here also looks good. Got a nice look at the yoke here. I can see there's probably a little moisture buildup because there's a little bit of rust on this back cooling piece, but really not bad. Looking inside, I don't really see any corrosion, but we'll get a look in there shortly for hopefully some better detail. And just clean out this handle a little bit. So the next step will be getting this plastic shell off, and I believe for the most part it just snaps into place. So I think what I'll do is work on getting this bezel apart, and we'll just go from there. Okay, so there's a couple of steps to getting this back panel off, and your first instinct may be, I need to unlock this lock. However, the first steps are to actually take off the plastic bezel here, which there's a little notch up here. You just slide a flathead screwdriver or a little nylon piece to get in behind. It just tips out. You carefully remove that, pull these 2 screws, and then there's 2 speaker screws here at the bottom. You'll pull those 2 screws, and using the little foot peg here, you'll just kind of pull this whole thing out. So once you have all those screws removed, you just tip this front portion forward. Now on the front of the computer, there's 3 small tabs that actually hold this into place. So you'll just want to loosen it at the top, and then with this seated here, you can kind of jimmy out the rest of the bezel to access the front of the computer. You have to be careful because if the center tab isn't aligned correctly, you won't actually be able to get a CD to go in or come out properly. So as you can see there's one here and one there that lifts out, and then that center tab must actually be located somewhere right there. Hopefully you can see that. It's very small, so it just goes in gently. Now I'm glad we removed this because we've got some dirt, dust, and debris in here. But it's kind of interesting, on the inside here there's actually more information about the make. So this was made in '99. You can actually take this lock off the back. It doesn't actually serve any purpose. So I'm not sure why it was ever put there by Apple. But now that we've got that off, we can see we've got a little bit of debris in here we'll have to clean up, some dirt and stuff. We'll get some cleaning done, and then we'll get deeper into this build. All right, so now we've got a look at the RAM slot area, and it looks like we've got an interesting little connector here. Now I'm not super familiar with Mac, so I'm sure somebody out there knows what this slot is for. I'm assuming it's some kind of an expansion. We've only got one stick of RAM in here, and I'm honestly really curious, having never worked on Apple products really hardly ever, what kind of RAM these use. And I know it seems like an elementary question. So it's PC100, 322, 620. Interesting, made by Hyundai. It's a little dirty, but interesting that it's PC100. If we can get this to boot, I know I have extra PC100, so we actually could upgrade the memory in this. I also have another one, so if one of them works and one of them doesn't, we should have enough to upgrade them. I will say adding memory without taking off the outer bezel here is probably the biggest pain just because of space, but it is kind of an easy access port. I could see where somebody who worked on these all the time and is way more skilled than I am might actually like this design. So the next thing we're going to do is pull off this bezel to get a better look at the board. So there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 screws there, 2 screws here, and 2 screws there. So a total of 8 screws to take out to get in at the rest of the computer here. So let's get that taken off and give a better look inside. All right, there you have it, the inner workings of an iMac G3 Blueberry. Once you get the shielding off, it gives you access to pretty much everything. Hard drive, optical drive, all controlled off of the smallest IDE ribbon cable I think I've ever seen. Easily upgradable in terms of the RAM here. I'm assuming maybe this is some kind of an air card expansion for network capability. Again, not familiar with Macs, but if anybody knows what this little port is for, I would really love to know. Our lithium battery looks perfect. I don't see any bulging. The caps all look good on the power circuit. Everything looks good under the heat sinks. I mean, there's a little dust in here, but realistically, this is very, very clean to be something that was literally sitting in the rain and mud. I'm just looking over everything here. Our I/O on the side panel is made by LG, which I think is kind of funny. LG branded X-ray warning on the back here. Now, I'm not familiar with the Mac chipset of this era. I assume our CPU's under here. This must be a GPU, I'm guessing, and the Lucent is a sound controller. I'd love to be corrected on that. Drop me a comment if you know more about these than I think everybody probably knows more than I do. I'm also kind of curious what these 120 pin solder pads are. There's 2 of them here. What those might have been used for, whether those were potential future expansions or some other submodel on the board that just never got used. Really curious about that. But honestly, I'm kind of shocked this was sitting in a recycler. I mean, nothing looks damaged or non-functional. So rather than dig open the CRT, I think we're going to go ahead and just reassemble this and connect a keyboard and a power connector and just see if we can get it to fire up. The one thing I will note is, where it was most exposed to moisture, the speaker controller up here, there's a little bit of corrosion, but it's just at the edge by this metal protector where it's rusty. If you look at the board there, it looks fairly clean. There's maybe just a little tiny bit of corrosion on it. No more than I've seen on anything else I've dug out of a recycler, so I think, honestly, this is probably going to be fine. Other side looks clean, so if we have some speaker issues, not insurmountable. We can clean up that board, rerun the solder on there. Probably wouldn't even need to take it out. So let's go ahead and reassemble and see if we can get some power going. One other thing I find interesting is there is a VGA port hidden on the back here. So I think you could actually run a VGA monitor off of this board. So if your CRT doesn't work, and if it doesn't, we're going to connect to VGA just to see, or possibly just as a dual monitor setup. Okay, so we've got the iMac back together now, and I've got it plugged into power with the little USB keyboard plugged in. It's not a Mac-specific keyboard, so I hope that doesn't matter because I literally don't have one. Now that it's cleaned up, you can see there's a couple of pretty good scratches in the glass, but I think with the backlight of the CRT, probably not going to cause a whole lot of issues. So let's hit the power button. I hear the CRT activate. Let's just see if things fire up. Well, I'm not hearing anything else going on in there. Hit the button again. Okay, well, we definitely get some kind of action on the CRT. So you can see in the corner of the screen there. No smoke or anything. I haven't heard anything pop or fizz, so let's take a look around and see if we can find anything out. Alright, so I took the back plate off again. I've got it connected to power and to VGA, and it's picking up the VGA on my monitor over here. But when I hit the power button, I hear the CRT engage. You hear that little brushing sound. But nothing on the VGA, and if we look underneath here, there's nothing, no light coming on the screen. And I'm getting no noises, no hard drive noise, no disk drive initialize. And I took some temp readings, and across the board, everything's basically ambient, except for these little 221s over here. I'm going to try and zoom in on them. Both of those temped up, and kind of some of the surrounding components got warm too. And I can't tell if this cap right here is bad, the C130, or if maybe this L9 or L10 are bad. That being said, I started kind of looking around for more potential issues. And these caps right here, I mean, they look okay, but they're not really temping up. So I gotta suspect something over here is causing a power drain, because nothing else looks like there are any issues. And I don't see any components like broken off the board or obviously missing, or, you know, like anybody's ever even been in here for a repair job or anything. But yeah, just no indication of life on this whatsoever. And again, I don't know from Adam much about Macs, so I'm hoping someone out there can enlighten me on what this issue might be. No display, no hard drive spin up, no disk drive, no noises, no beep codes or anything. So give me a shout if you have an idea of what this could possibly be. I'd love to hear it. I'm also suspect, you know, maybe it's just a dead BIOS battery and it needs that to fire up. I don't know. So enlighten me. I give it out to you. Drop me a note in the comments and let's figure this out together.